The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Current and Joseph Christina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 162. I'm Joseph Christina here with my co-host Trevor Current. On last week's show, we talked about the new Lightroom 5.6. A firmware update causes third-party batteries to fail, and asked the question, is Photoshop compositing cheating? If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at digitalphotographycafe.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dphotocafe. Listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or subscribe through iTunes or RSS.
So, Joe, we are back together. How you doing?
How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Going crazy, man.
Another week. Yeah, I know. Kids are going back to school. That's going to be nice. I'm excited about that.
I'm sure you are. I have a few more weeks before mine go back, so we're getting by.
Yeah. That's good. Get them out of our hair for a little bit. We can get back into a schedule. I love that.
Yeah, summer's good. You know, you gotta love the family being home, being able to have some time with them and all. But it does make it a little bit more difficult to keep schedules and get work done. So, yeah, that was my problem. You know, the last 2 weeks I've just been absolutely swamped, and I just have not been able to break away to do the show. I know, Joe, you picked the reins up the 1 week, and then last week we missed. So, but yeah, we're gonna try and keep it rolling,
be back.
man.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. We got summer is almost over, and we'll start getting back onto the kind of like a more calendar schedule and have it every Monday. You guys will have something from us. So, anyways, we have a special guest this week, right?
Yeah. Fred Pfeifer, one of our loyal listeners and big fans. We love you, Fred. He is joining us today. A few shows back, we had mentioned that Fred had contacted us. He got a hold of a Sigma Quattro dp2 camera that he was able to review. So we're gonna talk to him about that, see what his thoughts were, see what the capabilities of the camera were, and just kind of get the lowdown on this new technology.
Yeah. So welcome, Fred. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you very much for having me on the air. Appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Kind of exciting. Absolutely. And thanks for listening and watching for so long. That's great. That's awesome.
You guys do a great job. And as I mentioned in the many emails I sent you every week, your topics are always interesting, always on point. And I learn quite a lot, as I'm sure your other listeners do.
Oh, that's
Thank you
good.
so much.
That's good. That's what
we really appreciate it. So this Quattro DP2, that's kind of exciting for me, especially because I do like the technology behind the Sigma camera. So it's kind of, as soon as you said that, I'm going to be reviewing this, I think it immediately cued me in like, wow, let me see how this is going to be. So how did you end up coming to get this camera? What did it all entail?
I think there must be a gremlin out there that knows I'm a sucker for anything free or to test. So I get this email saying you have been selected as a professional photographer to test out this new Sigma dp2 Quattro.
Right.
Just give us your credit card, and we'll charge you $1,000, and we'll let you have the camera for a week.
Nice.
So, well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you what happened. So I said, okay, I'm in. I give them my credit card, and of course they charge it immediately. I mean, I just got done signing it, and it hit my bank already.
Wow.
Okay. So the next email I get is, well, the camera is being manufactured in Japan, and we should have it by the end of August or maybe early September. So it's cool, but in the meantime, you've got my $1,000, but I'm not going to argue. Within 4 days, I actually 3 days later, I get a camera. I get a notice on my door from FedEx saying, we tried to deliver a camera for you. You weren't home. We'll deliver it tomorrow or Thursday, or you can come pick it up. So it being Tuesday, and I know you only have 7 days, I rushed down to the FedEx office, picked up the camera. Now, mind you, this is Tuesday night. So Wednesday, I unpacked it and read the manual. So I got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I had to have it back by Monday, or they keep the money.
Okay.
And like you mentioned in the show, I think last week or the week before, on these test deals, like you said, if you scratch it or there's a spot on there, you bought the camera basically. So I was very, very careful how to use it.
Yeah, that's kind of odd though that they would immediately charge the card. You know, a lot of companies, they'll either for test purposes they'll send something out at no charge, or they'll charge a card for like $1 just so that verify that it is what it is.
Right.
But
yeah, one would only hope, right?
You know, I think personally, I received this email as well. Honestly, I think this is more of a sales tactic on Sigma's end rather than a marketing tactic to get reviews. Because that is correct. I mean, what Joe said, you know, within the industry, you know, Joe and I have worked hard to get press credentials. And, you know, we are connected with many different PR agencies who represent large photographic companies, and they will send you review units at no charge. I mean, they, depending on the value of it, like a while back, we got a Hasselblad. It was like $54,000 worth of equipment. No charge. They sent it to us for free. They even sent us the return shipping. But they wanted to make sure that we had insurance to cover the camera. So, you know, we had to provide proof of insurance, which is no big deal. But that's normally how they work. So my feeling on this whole thing is it really was sales. They wanted to get this camera in as many photographers' hands as possible in hopes that they will just keep it.
Yeah, I tell you what, Fred, when we received that camera in, they wanted my insurance. I always carry $1 million to $2 million worth of insurance. That's just what is necessary when you're doing a lot of bigger gigs. They just require it, especially in some locations. So that was like a no-brainer. But yeah, the idea that they're sending us basically a car, right? A brand new car worth of equipment at zero cost at all. Just for the review, which is kind of, I agree with Trev on this. It could definitely be more of a marketing ploy. But listen, we're happy that you got the camera to review. That's fantastic. Now, getting into the camera itself, I know it definitely has like a little bit of an unconventional design, different than your D400 that you normally shoot with, right?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a strange design, and if you have a picture, you can put a picture up, but it's awkward. It's like a little box with a little handle on the right hand side, and when you're almost forced to hold it like this by the lens and the bottom of the body, because if you hold it the way they want you to hold it, I swear to God, my hand after an hour it was so tired I couldn't hold the camera anymore. I had to keep switching around.
Really?
It's kind of a backward design, and I never got used to it. Now I did read reviews later on about other people who used the camera, and they loved that design. Personally, on my end, it was a big deal breaker. Among other things, I just didn't like that design at all.
Yeah, so it's coming in here. It shows as what, 39 megapixels, but then an actual of 19, or I think when I calculated it was like 19.6 megapixels, and that's because of that new Foveon X3 sensor that they have on there, right?
I'm glad you pronounced that word, because I'm thinking, is it Foveon? How do you pronounce that word? And that was, as you know, invented by Bayer from Kodak back in 1976, that whole system. And quite frankly, it does take phenomenal pictures. If you shoot in RAW, which they recommend, and you use their software, which they send you to process your pictures, you could probably do a poster board without any kind of a breakup with a picture. Wow. In that sense, it's phenomenal. It's like a medium-sized format camera.
Gotcha.
The image they give you. That I liked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if people don't know what a Foveon sensor is in comparison to a Bayer Array or just a standard CMOS that are normal cameras, each pixel has your RGB on each single pixel, whereas a Foveon, what it does is it does 3 layers. So you have a whole layer, like let's say a whole sensor that captures red, a whole sensor. So each layer is capturing those light waves so that every pixel has its own color instead of having to be divided into 3 colors, let's say. So it is definitely an interesting process, and it's more akin to standard film in comparison to digital. So that's one of the things that I kind of got cued into. I said, I really would like to try this out.
Right, and you know, the panchromatic nature of the sensor captures information from all wavelengths of light, which makes the picture that much more vibrant and much more crystal clear and crisp.
Gotcha.
So the camera is also suitable for black and white. I don't know if I think I shot 1 or 2 black and white pictures with it, and I was not happy with the results. But they say if you use their software, which I really didn't do, their black and white pictures are supposed to be second to none as far as quality goes. I didn't try it out, and and the reviews I've read on their website, the pictures that they've submitted look fantastic.
Yeah, what I keep hearing here, Fred, is that they keep on telling you to use their software for development. So what you're saying is this is not for camera raw like you're using in Lightroom or whatnot. It's better to bring them in through their software, do the development there in comparison to Lightroom. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, they ask you to download their free software and use that to process your films. I downloaded it and I found it to be a bit awkward to work with. So I just brought everything into Lightroom and did my post processing in Lightroom and in Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find that learning curve with any software that you download, and it's going to feel quirky and awkward until but you don't have time to learn it, right? I mean, you got to get this camera back,
Right. I only had 4 days, so I got to tell you, I felt pressure. Every day I shot with it, I felt pressure that I couldn't. When it's your camera, you take chances. You go different spots where you shouldn't go, or you crawl on the floor to get shots. I felt very limited testing the camera because I didn't want to drop it or scratch it or bump into the lens or something like that. That with my Nikon I wouldn't worry about. It's my camera. If I do something bad to it, I'll get it fixed.
Right.
I didn't want to spend $1,000 on a mirrorless camera that I really didn't want in my collection or a camera I want to shoot with down the road.
Right. That makes sense. So I guess a lot of people are thinking, okay, so we have this Foveon sensor, which is different than what I have already. Most people, let's say. How does it fare when it comes to, for example, autofocus? How does it fare in low light?
I'm glad you asked that question, because for me, it didn't fare well at all. I shot in a restaurant, and the light was like late afternoon, say 5 o'clock. It wouldn't focus. It just kept going in and out, kept hunting, couldn't find a focal point. I finally focused it manually.
Okay.
So that was a big deal breaker on me. And even though it has a low light, what do they call it? A low light LEDs that's supposed to help
the focus assist.
Yeah, the focus assist.
It's garbage. It did not work in my case.
Really?
And the other downside, besides the difficulty in focusing in low light, is the battery life. I mean, you're shooting raw. I would get maybe 40 pictures before the battery went out.
Oh, wow.
And they give you a second battery. And even with 2 batteries, you're in the field after 80 pictures. Hell, I shoot 80 pictures in one sitting, in 10 minutes. So after
And that's the beauty of digital, right? You're not worrying about processing rolls and rolls of film. I mean, you should be able to shoot as many as you want.
Yeah,
Not like in the old Kodak days when you had 36 pictures to work with, and you better make sure at least 10 of them are good, right?
Yeah. So this is actually feeling more like a film camera, having to use your this specific dark room, and let's say their chemicals, number one, only be able to shoot close to 40 images, which is close to 36 on film.
There's a marketing ploy for you. There's a good marketing ploy for you. You can market it as, are you missing film?
Yeah.
Here's your chance to shoot what it was like back in the 70s.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Manually focusing, manual focusing, autofocus not snapping in as such. Yeah. So, all right. So there, as far as what we can see on the camera itself, you do not have some place that you can actually look through. You don't have a viewfinder. So you're looking on this back screen. How is that screen?
The back screen is phenomenal. It's excellent. I say that with a caveat. It's excellent in low light, and it's excellent if the sun is behind you and you're holding the camera like that so you can see what you're shooting.
Gotcha.
Bright light, it's hard to see anything. But low light is fantastic. It's late afternoon when you're shooting during the golden twilight time, phenomenal. Early morning, phenomenal. Early afternoon, noontime. Unless you can find a shady place, you have a problem.
You just can't see. Right. Yeah. And now I understand.
But the screen is great. The screen, the image on the back of the screen is beautiful. Did a great job.
Nice. Yeah, it shows here in specs that it's like 3 inches with like close to 1 million DPI. So it's definitely a good back end to it, right? Good screen.
Yeah, it has 921K dot resolution.
Nice.
So what was the speed of the camera, though? I mean, all right. So what I'm hearing is with the focusing issues. In low light, it's sounding like this camera is not very snappy, not very speedy.
I'm thinking, I hope Sigma isn't listening to this because they're going to probably send me a mean letter. Yeah, it's not fast at all. It shoots about 4 or 5 frames per second, but the wait time for it to process that, and that's because the files are so large. Even the JPEG files like 28 megabytes, right?
Right, gotcha.
So the RAW files are like 98,
Wow.
100, 120. So it takes a long time to process that, understandably so, because the files are so big. So sports photography, forget about it. Portraits, if you're not in a big hurry to see your results, it's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Landscape, great.
Right.
But sports or action photography, you got to be patient, which I'm not, by the way.
Yeah, so I wonder if this isn't kind of the fault here, let's say on the Sigma side. Now, I'll tell you why. If I was Sigma, I want to send out a camera to you, and I want you to look at it, quote unquote, review it, and get the absolute best result from it. I would probably add, let's say, a extremely fast SD card into it, so that you're not having to wait for these things and the camera feels more responsive. That's what I would do. So by the sound of it, it seems like maybe they were handing out very slow, maybe cheap SD cards into these things.
Well, yes and no, because I put in my own card, and I bought a very fast card to shoot with, and same problem. It took a while. Even
really?
it probably knocked off maybe a second of the time.
Oh, okay. So it's not as big of a difference with the card.
I think it's in the processing. I think it's all in the processing.
Right.
Gotcha. The back end. Well, I tell you what, guys, before we go any further with this great review here, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
All right, so we are back, and we're here with Fred Pfeifer. He's one of our valued listeners, and we are talking about the Sigma Quattro dp2 camera that he received and tested, and we're reviewing it now. So we talked about a lot of the specs and a few pros and cons, but Fred, so what would you say are the pros and the cons? What are the deal breakers? What are the things that would make you say you love the camera and it's worth the buy?
Yeah, right. Okay, I'll give you the plus side. And I think you can tell by what we've talked about earlier on that I would not buy the camera.
Right.
And I'll go into the reason why in a minute. But on the plus side, the detail recorded by the camera is fabulous. Excellent levels of detail across the frame when compared to typical Bayer sensor cameras, with each pixel recording a full color information. Like I said before, you can blow up your photos to billboard size without any loss of detail.
Right.
And photos really do look great. On the downs, and that's a plus side. The other plus is it's a mirrorless camera, so if you're in the market for a mirrorless camera and you want to pretend that you're back in 1970 and can only shoot 36 pictures, might be a great camera for you. If you like the way the camera is designed with the right side coming out like a little handle, if that is something that would please you, feel comfortable for you, by all means, that might be the camera
that's an
for you.
ergonomic thing that you'd probably want to feel it before you buy it.
Right. On the downside, I hate the way it's designed, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, your best shots can only be achieved, and we didn't go into this, but it can only be achieved at ISOs at 400 or less. You go above 400 and the pictures don't look good at all.
Really?
So I shot everything that I sent you guys, I shot at 100.
Okay.
And that of course makes the camera slow. It makes you can't go too high in your shutter speed or your aperture because you don't have that much light available to you. And by the way, it does come with a little flash, which I forgot to mention. When they sent the camera, they had a little tiny flash that attaches to the camera. I never got a chance to use it because I didn't have enough time and I didn't want to deal with it. So ISO over 400, you get a lot of noise in your picture.
Wow.
So that's a negative. Negative is the way the camera is designed. The negative is it comes with a 30 millimeter lens, which is equivalent to about a 48 on a digital SLR. Although the camera does come with, I think you can get a 72 millimeter and a 29, but I'm not sure. But it did come. There were other options besides the 30 millimeter lens, and it escapes me at the moment what the other ones were. Negative side too is, like I said, the design of it, slow ISO, didn't focus very well in low light.
Yeah, that's how, the thing that really bothers me here is ISO. And right now we understand that cameras are shooting at 100,000 ISO, 200,000 ISO, some crazy ISO, and being able to capture images basically in blackness. And hearing that we're looking at ISO 400 being the top, even though they're giving a rating of 6400 at the top, and you're showing 400 is really we're starting to get noise. By 800, you're definitely noisy, and you're having to shoot at 100. Once again, this feels more like a medium format old school camera that I used to use, where we were shooting at 50 ISO, 100 ISO, 200 ISO. Even the old Hasseys, the old Hasselblad digitals that came out that were 30, 40 megapixel camera, medium format, those things you could not shoot above 400 ISO. They would max out at 1600 when they started 800. It feels that same way as a medium format camera. So it's very odd. I think it's very odd as a point and shoot.
Yes, I agree.
Fred, a question for you. You may not know this, but the lenses. So we're talking about the lens options. So Sigma, is known for aftermarket lenses for Canons, Nikons, all of those. Are the lenses for this Quattro, for the dp2, are they proprietary to that format, to that mirrorless format, or are they, if somebody has a Canon, that they have some Sigma lenses for, can they snap those on this, or no?
No, those are fixed lenses. They don't come off or anything. They're just on the camera. So you can buy a different camera.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's not an interchangeable lens camera.
No,
oh,
gotcha. So what you're actually having to do is get different versions based on...
Yeah, you order the camera, whichever lens you want on it.
Mm.
Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah, that's definitely I don't
know. You asked in the beginning of the show why I took part in this program, and I've been looking at getting a mirrorless camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been listening to your report as well as This Week in Photo and to Martin Bailey's shows to see what their thoughts were on it. And I really think that's the way our industry is moving. And so I wanted to test a few of these, see which ones I liked. And in my age, it gets to be a burden to carry 80 pounds of equipment on a photo shoot.
Oh yeah,
yes.
And I guess you get tired of carrying all these lenses, all this glass. So, and I think the mirrorless cameras are coming a long way from what we had 5 years ago even. And I thought maybe the Sigma might be a leap ahead of what's out there now. And I was disappointed to find out that it was actually a step back as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I've talked about this. I know we've talked about it for at least a year or so. My original thought was mirrorless was going to be the de facto camera for pros, but I knew it was going to take some time to get there. And there is issues with mirrorless where they haven't been able to fix certain issues, let's say, as of yet. But it's definitely, they're getting better and better with each iteration. And I like you, sometimes we are working with 15 pounds, 16 pounds of equipment, and it gets to be burdensome, and it's a lot. Okay, it's very hard to be creative when you're sweating, or when your arm is hurting, and you're right. And as they become smaller and smaller, lighter weight, and they're producing the same images or the same image quality and the same image size, the final output, as the DSLRs, I definitely see myself eventually going to, if it's mirrorless or maybe it's a hybrid or something that they come out with in the next year or so, moving into that just for the size and just for the shape,
right?
And just for the weight alone. I mean, that's really, really important for me, is the weight. To carry a lot of equipment for extended periods of time, I just can't do it. And like I said, it's very hard to be creative. How about you, Trev?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, mirrorless, I think, is definitely a great way to go. The technology has, a little ways to go. We've got adoption that needs to happen. We have, the perception that needs to be, adopted, from the consumer, that like, because obviously we want a smaller, more compact. That's the whole point of mirrorless. So if you've got a huge DSLR looking body for consumer acceptance, it kind of defeats the whole point. I mean, we want to be able to go out with a small body, smaller lenses that achieves, high-end results. So, I mean, I think we're getting there. Fred, I'm really glad that you tried this Sigma to see where we stand with their technology. I would have to agree that based on what you're saying, based on the specs that we looked at, they're not there yet. They're not there where they need to be. The sensor sounds, in theory, like it would be great, but it seems like they have a ways to go with the technology to get where they need to be for really professional use.
Right. But you do know that Photokina is next month. And Photokina, the rumor is that there's going to be lots of new cameras out, especially the mirrorless cameras. I think Sony's going to bring out a new camera, and Fuji's supposed to bring out a new camera. So it'll be interesting to see what develops in the next few months.
Well, we'll definitely be on top of it. That's what we do. So we'll be following the Photokina news, and we'll certainly be reporting about it here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Fred. That was awesome. At least we got to hear some behind the scenes and what you experienced reviewing the camera itself, and I guess everyone kind of take it all with a grain of salt, and you be the you decide. If it doesn't feel right in your hand, guys, that's going to be a flag number one. This might really feel good, or it might feel bad to you, but that's number one. You need to be comfortable to make good photographs. You need to be comfortable.
That's right.
And you have to have confidence in the camera that'll do what you think it's going to do for you, which I had no confidence shooting with this camera.
Right.
Definitely a problem.
All right. Excellent, Fred. Thank you so much for joining us. And Joe, it's
my pleasure.
Time to hit the road here. So if people want to connect with you outside of the show, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yep. You can find me on Twitter. That's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great. And you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Curran.
All right, everyone, we are out of here for yet another week. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/162. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe. And we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.